Recording.
All right. A little bit later in the day. We don't have a ton of time before it's dark. But it's pretty evident that the seasons are changing. So I don't know how many more days I'm going to be able to comfortably ride the scooter without having to wear a jacket. But today was honestly perfect. It was like 70, it got up to like a high of like 74 degrees. Minimal breeze, like just a small little breeze. Mostly sunny. And yeah, it was perfect. Oh man, there's a nice sunset in the background. I might have to turn around and go the other way so we can capture that. Anyway, yeah, we might not have too many more of these days. I was able to get outside for a good amount of time. Kind of walk down by South Shore Park in Bayview. Yeah, it was interesting because I got up to go to brunch, and it was like 60 degrees by my house, and I went to brunch in Bayview, so it's always hard to tell like how the lake's gonna affect the weather, and it was actually warmer in Bayview than it was by my house. And Bayview's quite a bit closer to the lake than me. I don't know, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it warmed up out here. I don't have really a plan for today. Just thinking maybe head downtown. Oh, I got an itch on my chin. Alright. Oh, I always hit that little pothole. I got around it today, but there's a huge pothole right there. Oh no, we went down a hill a little bit and I can't see the sun anymore. It's gonna be a good sunset tonight. There's not a ton of clouds out. Usually the clouds are like make it super dynamic, but it's a nice orange right now. Yeah, so I was talking about in a different video, or I think, how they need to fix the flooding on this road. Well, it turns out the plan to like rejuvenate this park has been, or part of it, I guess, has been approved. So there is a plan in place already, I guess, for water mitigation. I was kind of shocked how few people were in the park today by the lake. Like I said, I was in South Shore Park in Bayview, and I don't go there very often. In fact, I could probably count on one hand how many times I've actually like been in the park, like just stayed in the park. Normally I'm just driving through. But I was kind of shocked at how few people were there. Now, there is a beer garden there with like food and stuff, a pavilion, and there were quite a few people there. So at that area, yeah, there were a ton of people. I'd say probably at least 50. But yeah, perfect day. I have a tendency of, like, if I really like something or if I really enjoy something that I just continue to repeat it over and over again. I don't know why I do that, but if I say that it's a perfect day several more times, that's why. Milwaukee was also in the news. I don't know if I mentioned that on this one. Yeah, I keep forgetting where I'm telling people things, or if I'm just talking to myself. But there's this other new project that's proposed in Milwaukee that's been catching national attention through the Neutral Project, who have several other projects going on in the state. They have one that's actually just broke ground in Madison. They have the Edison, which is just off of Water Street on Edison. We'll go past it here soon. It was a warehouse, and it's since been demolished. And adjacent to the Edison, that is supposedly going to break ground either later this year or early next year. I'm going to get over here. Another motorcycle behind me. But just adjacent to the Edison, they just proposed another project for a property that actually has had RFPs out for a while on the Marcus Performing Arts Center parking garage right on Water Street. Total underutilized parcel. That whole area of Water Street could be so much better than what it is right now. But anyway, they just proposed what will be the tallest mass timber building in the world. Now, Milwaukee has already held that title with the Ascent, which was quickly surpassed. I don't remember where. But the Edison is also going to be a mass timber tower. So Milwaukee's becoming kind of a hub for mass timber, which I think is excellent. It's probably the most innovative thing in building construction in the last couple of decades, I would say, in terms of high-rise construction. I'm on a forum here in Milwaukee called Skyscraper City, which is actually pretty active. And somebody on there was just mentioning the other day, and I totally agree with them, that when we were, because most of us are millennials, so for us millennials, many of us, if you think back to like our childhood or teenage years, we could have never imagined having multiple luxury high-rise apartment towers going up at the same time in Milwaukee. Not to mention one second. Not to mention having now like basically 4 luxury apartment towers built in the last decade in various parts throughout the downtown area. We would have never believed it. You know, I remember as a kid always thinking like that Milwaukee was not this big city. We didn't have all these skyscrapers. I mean, I'm fairly well traveled. especially in the United States. And I just saw all these other cities that had bigger skylines. And I remember as a kid also thinking, like, you don't really have a sense of scale and understanding of the world like you do when you become an adult or travel more. But I always remember thinking, Milwaukee should be a pretty big city. It's got a professional baseball team. It's got a professional basketball team. And when I looked around the country, the only other cities that had that were cities that were well known, large cities. And I think in most of those categories, Milwaukee is one of the smaller market areas. And then I remember traveling and going to some cities like, let me think for a second of something that didn't have any sports. Somewhere like Louisville, for instance, which has grown up quite a bit, but even at the time, Louisville didn't have any professional sports, but it looked like a bigger city than Milwaukee. There's several other cities like that, but I'm just using that as an example. I don't really know where I was going with that. Oh, just to the fact that, we would have never really expected all this dense construction going on. And the other thing too is like the media, like national media, even local media, were very, had kind of this pessimistic vibe to development. And even just in our community, it was just kind of like one of those things where if you saw something like this neutral project proposal, you'd kind of just shrug it off, because you just kind of assume wishful thinking. That's not going to happen here in Milwaukee. But that attitude and that perception has definitely changed, both nationally and locally. But I think another thing, I think Milwaukee's always probably been a significant city in the country, but I think the other thing that's become is that Milwaukee's gotten a lot of publicity lately with national events. The Bucks winning a championship brought a lot of attention here. We've been having political debates here, and we had the Republican convention just recently, and we've held other national events. Another thing that was mentioned on that forum, and I would have to say that I've found this to be true in my life, is that people who have never been to Milwaukee in the country, I think, like I said, I think this is changing, but I think people who have never been to Milwaukee have this have a certain idea of what it is here, based upon a narrative that the news has talked about it, mostly violence and crime and segregation. But I think once people actually come here and experience the city, and like I said, they mentioned it on this forum too, most of the time I've found that people are completely surprised. Oh man, the sun is awesome right now. I'm going to definitely have to go west and capture the sun at some point. Yeah, I've shown a few people around Milwaukee that have never been here, and I used to work in a couple of the hotels in the downtown area, and have seen quite a few people's reactions of the city. And just about everybody, of course there's never perfect, but just about everybody is pleasantly surprised by how clean the city is, how fun, entertaining, and just a beautiful city. I like going down historic Mitchell Street because it's just really got some good bones. I like the architecture. It's struggled a little bit economically, but I've got faith in it coming back at some point. So I think instead of going over the freeway, I'm going to turn on 6th Street here. I decided to make a separate channel for the neighborhood videos, mostly because I'm associating it with my my work. So it's going to be a little bit more professional. I kind of just say whatever on here. Not somebody who has any experience with video editing, as you probably can tell from my videos. So this first intro, the intro to my videos, is like 36 seconds long. It took me like 10 hours to edit. Although it was my first time actually learning some things on the program, so I don't think it'll take me that long going forward, but it is going to be time consuming. I know that much. And I guess I'm prepared for that. Yeah, we always come south on 6th Street. We never go north, so we never get to see this mural, which is pretty iconic. You see it when you come in on I-94 from the south. And this is I-94 that we're going underneath right now. So directly ahead of us with the big antenna on top of it is the Hilton, Milwaukee City Center. I worked there for a while. It's a pretty cool hotel. So this area here would be considered Walker's Point. Which I didn't know this, but apparently it's the neighborhood with the most 18th century buildings in Milwaukee. Which I suppose if you're driving around, I could understand that. But there are some pretty historic areas in some of the other neighborhoods. But Walker's Point was the first settlement in Milwaukee. Milwaukee was founded by 3 individuals: Solomon Juneau, Byron Kilbourne, and George Walker. George Walker settled right here, south of the river. Solomon Juneau settled east of the river, between the river and the lake, which is why that part of town is now called Juneau Town. or East Town. A lot of burnouts up here. And Byron Kilbourne settled on the west side of the river, which is why that side of town is called Kilbourne Town. And they did not get along. In fact, they were all pretty much rivals. Specifically, Solomon Juneau and Byron Kilbourne. They purposely set up their street grid so that they would not connect. And when Byron Kilbourne put out a map of Milwaukee, he just stopped the city at the river and didn't even show Juneau Town. So when people were coming from the west, which is where the farmland was, they wouldn't know that there was anything east of the river. And you can still see evidence of this because some of our bridge overpasses over the river now are on a diagonal. Most notably is Wisconsin Avenue. So we've made it to downtown, but we are losing light, so we might get a little quick loop around downtown and head home. Because not only do I prefer to not drive at night if I don't have to, but it's going to get cold. And I do not have a sweatshirt on. I do have a long sleeve shirt. And I do have it rolled up right now, so it is like warm enough out that I don't need it now. But there we go. Oh yeah, that's right. I said I was going to go through the colleges, and I never did that. Well, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how my work day goes tomorrow. And possibly do a campus tour tomorrow. Guess we'll see. Ooh. Ugh. Saw that one coming from a while away. Alright, I don't want to go too much further out of downtown. I'm going. Oh, there's a police officer there. There's definitely something going on over there. Alright, let's turn by Fiserv Forum here. There's something going on at the Forum today. Possibly a Bucks game, but I doubt it based on the crowd. All this is new over here within the last 10 years. It's pretty crazy to see in Milwaukee. We're not used to new stuff like this. It's very odd. I'm used to going on vacations and seeing new buildings, and it's cool. I think it's cool. Well, we're going to go through this light, too. Alright, we'll go over the river into Juneau Town. Alright, I think it's actually time to start heading back. This is Water Street, and this is that location of that new building that the Neutral Project is planning on, the tallest timber building, mass timber. And right behind it here, right behind it there in Edison, is where the Edison will be. The iconic City Hall. Probably my favorite building in the city. Or at least top 3. Another red light. Here's the Pabst Theater. Yeah, it's a Sunday night, so I guess that's why I was a little confused that there'd be something at Pfizer Forum, but I guess, I mean, there's concerts and stuff going on all the time. Just seemed a little bit early for basketball. So we got the famous iron block building ahead of us, and then beyond that is what we all call the Ladybug building. Literally the only way I know how to identify it. And I'm pretty sure that's how everybody else in the city would identify it. They did take them down a while back for cleaning or something. And nobody was sure if they were going to go back up. Oh, some sort of Mexican parade. Interesting. Alright, we're now in the 3rd ward. This is Water Street, still. This is probably where most tourists would come. The first time to Milwaukee would be the 3rd ward. And it's not very big, because now we're going to exit the 3rd ward. There's a Dalmatian over there. This is a fairly affluent neighborhood. Pretty much defined by condos. There may be some apartments. I'm sure there's apartments, but say the majority here on the river are going to be condos. Might be a little bit too early for the camera to pick up the lights on the Hone. So we're back in Walker's Point. So the Rockwell Automation building is telling me that it is 7:15 and it is 71 degrees outside, which is actually pretty respectable. Ambulance. Well, that should be awesome for audio. Yeah, this is an interesting side of town. It's definitely seeing a lot of gentrification, which I think is good, because honestly this area of town was just a no man's land. There really wasn't any residential or anything down here. Now there is, but it's been a little sporadic. So you'll see, like right here, there's a new development, but then there's like not a whole lot around it. So this area of town will take a little bit of time to fill in. It does have an incredible stock of these historic buildings, which is just incredible. And of course the famous Cream City brick. So this is some new development right here, newer. Well, we're gonna go through this light. I've been going through a lot of yellows. And then you get kind of down, well, I would say this is not really Walker's Point anymore. This is like the Harbor District. This is really where they're focusing most of their energy on now, because Walker's Point's now become like a new third ward already. So the new focus is to keep going south into what is, well, right here. We're going to turn back on Mitchell. Because if you continue south, and you can see, like, it's already coming back to life. Like, there is still some really quality restaurants over here and sporadic gentrification. But, just south of here is Bayview, and then you'll pretty much have a continuous shore neighborhoods that are just all nice. Like, there won't really be anywhere near the lake that's, you know, slummy. And let's be honest, like, I think every city in the United States has areas that are a little bit more rough than others. And I think, honestly, I mean, obviously, I think that the goal should be to, you know, I think it starts with just the education of why it's important to keep our cities clean, but also, you know, to instill some pride in the neighborhood. And I think that with the recent success of Milwaukee's sports teams and all the new development that's been coming in, and the national attention that we've been getting has started to, like, really change the connotation of Milwaukee with the citizens that are here, which is way more important, I think, than the external views of the city. Because for so long, Milwaukee has had this attitude and this, like I said, kind of pessimistic view on the city. And people weren't, I mean, you did have people that were very prideful of Milwaukee, of course, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I mean, you see tons of people getting behind this people's flag. I love it. I mean, I don't have a flagpole, but if I had a flagpole, I would put it up. I think it's awesome. I think our current flag sucks. And the people's flag is clearly what everybody wants. It's what everybody represents. Oh, streetlights came on. And I think it's what represents us. And I just think having a simple flag like that is going to be so much more appealing to the masses. And you want a flag to unite people and bring pride. And that's what I think this people's flag does. So I'm all for it. There was a vote, I think. I'm trying to remember if I even voted for, I live in the city of Milwaukee. I'm trying to remember if I even voted for it in this last primary. No idea. I might have. I think it was a question on there. Well, if it was, I voted yes, because I think it's a better representation of what Milwaukee is now and where we want to continue to go forward. We could have turned there on Mitchell or on Forest Home like we came. Let's just continue on Mitchell for a little while. Take a different way home. See if we can see the sunset a little bit better. I think we might have missed it. Pretty busy out. Suppose I should probably mention that there hasn't been an area I've been in where I haven't smelled weed. I think that's become kind of normal across the country now too. Weed is not legal here in Wisconsin in any capacity. Well, that's not true. We have Delta 8 is legal, I guess. So I suppose you could still buy stuff that smells like it, but yeah, I mean, everywhere that I've traveled now around the country, it's pretty prevalent in most areas, in most urban areas. I suppose if you go out to more suburban and rural areas, you're not going to smell it as much. There's not as much of a concentration of people. Personally, I don't mind the smell. I know some people are really really can't stand it. And I do understand people's, I understand people being upset about that. Because it's not like cigarettes. It does linger. It's a totally different, lingering smell. But I also think, that it's not like anybody's being hurt by somebody smoking weed, so I don't really care. You can kind of see the sunset in the contrail of that airplane. I didn't travel as much as I would have liked this year. I was able to make it to Florida in January, which I probably will do again this coming year, or February. I'm not sure, or both. And then what else? That's it. I don't think I've been anywhere else this year, so yeah, I haven't really traveled much this year. I've thought about a couple of different trips, but hopefully we'll change that next year. So this year I went to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and it was the first time I had been to Fort Lauderdale. But it was the second time I had been to Miami, and I hadn't been back to Miami. Oh man, it was probably 2009, 2010 was the last time I was there, so it's been like 15 years. And yeah, a lot's changed. Miami's a cool city. I'm definitely more of a West Coast Florida guy. I really like the Tampa area. We've kind of got some roots in the Fort Myers area. Tend to go there pretty frequently. And lately, here's another little parade, motorcycle parade. What is that flag? Dominican Republic? Maybe not. Yeah, Mitchell Street's interesting. That's for sure. Definitely can get a little wild. Well, this is part of like why I like this city, is that there's all these different neighborhoods. They all have their different feels, different cultures, and you could be in a totally different side of town and have a totally different feeling of the neighborhood and feel like you're in a totally different city. And like I said, I'm fairly well traveled around the country. And a lot of these Sunbelt cities, which, don't get me wrong, I like my beaches and I like my Florida. But it definitely can start to all look alike. I would say the things I like the best in Florida are the places that have been able to retain some of that old Florida charm. You know, like Siesta Key, Venice. It's hard to find that nowadays, and like I said, we used to spend a lot of time, well, we're trying, hopefully will continue to spend a lot of time in Fort Myers Beach. But after this last hurricane, much of the island was destroyed, so it's going to have a completely different feel. And I'm sure it'll be cool. I'm sure developers and investors will come up with something cool for the island, but it'll be different. I've talked a little bit about some of the places I've been thinking about traveling lately, and possibly next year. I got my passport last year. I don't intend to go out of the country this year, but I am like really itching to get out of the country. I haven't been out of the country since, well, before you needed a passport to get into Mexico and Canada. I think, so the last time I was out of the country I was in Canada. Went to Niagara Falls, and I was probably in middle school. So, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, I don't know, however old you are in middle school. That was the last time I was out of the country, and Canada's not all that different from the United States. You know, like, you'll see the speed limit signs change to kilometers, but other than that, it's pretty similar. Mexico is very different, but I was 5, so I don't have a ton of memories from that. So yeah, I think, like, I have a goal of visiting all 50 states. That's on my bucket list. Unfortunately, I've been to most of the states that have, like, interesting things. I know every state has something interesting, but I've been to 35. So I've got 15 to go. I was going to go to Alaska this year, and that fell through. I definitely could have went. So one of the places I was going to go when I went to Fort Lauderdale earlier this year was I was going to go to New Orleans. I've never been to New Orleans. I've never been to Louisiana. And I love Cajun food. And I still definitely want to get there. There's quite a few of the Gulf states I haven't been to. Louisiana, Alabama. That's not true. I feel like I've definitely been to Montgomery. I'm not sure. But see, we went on so many road trips, and I can't remember which states we did go through and which ones we didn't. So if I don't remember being in one of those states, I feel like I still have to go back. But there's other ones like Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't have a whole lot to do. Kansas. Have I been to Kansas? I don't think I've been to Kansas. North Dakota. And North Dakota's close enough that I could get there in a day. I have thought about doing that, just driving to Fargo and staying for a night and coming back. Alright, we'll turn on Beloit here as we exit West Milwaukee. Good view of the moon. Definitely getting chillier out. I can feel it. Still a really nice night out. So some of the international places that I've really been thinking about, Thailand only because, well, I mean, it's beautiful, but also because I've heard that it's the most recommended place for the first time, like, solo international traveler, because it's so tourist friendly. Most people speak English, and it's affordable. Oops, I should probably turn on 60th Street here. So that's on my list. Europe obviously has been on my list since I was a kid, so, but when I go to Europe, I don't want to just go for a week or two. I'm thinking like a whole month, if not two, probably just 1 month. Can always go back. Specifically, Italy. I've been intrigued by Italy and like Middle Eastern towns, and there's a lot that are still intact there. Whereas like in Germany, where most of my ancestors are from, a lot of them were destroyed in the wars. But I definitely would like to go to Germany, Italy, I don't know, all over Europe. Let's see, where else was I thinking? Like Central America or South America. I was thinking about like Peru, see Machu Picchu, or Costa Rica. I don't know. I want to see as much of the world as I can in my lifetime. Definitely glad I went out for a ride. It's a nice day. Like I said, it might be one of the last days. We're now firmly into September. It's September 7th? 8th? Yeah, I'm definitely starting to get a little bit of a chill. But we're almost home. Alright, well that's it for today. Quick little trip around downtown.